Hi friends, hope we're doing well. Let's go ahead and get started with 7-4 day 1 notes on scale drawings. Today we're going to look at models, and then for day 2 we're going to look at a scale factor. So if I do seem a little bit quiet, it's because my baby is next door to me and he's sleeping, so I'm not going to be as loud as normal. So just thought I would let you know. Vocab launch, a scale model or drawing is used to represent items that are too large or too small to be drawn or built to actual size. So keeping that in mind, the scale is going to give the ratio that compares the measurements of the model to the actual object. So it's always going to be in that ratio of model to the actual. Then also, using a given scale, you can set up a proportion to solve for missing measurements of the drawing model or the actual object. So keeping all of these things in mind, this vocabulary is incredibly important. For scale drawings or models, we're going to write the scale that is used using the ratio, just like I set up above. You're always going to put the model and compare it to the actual, always. So then keeping that, again, in mind, example 1, an adult human eyeball is about 24 millimeters wide. An anatomy professor has model eyeballs that are 6 centimeters wide for students to practice surgical procedures. What is the scale used? So again, we're going to identify which one's the model and which one's the actual. So let's look back through our sentences. An adult human eyeball is about 24 millimeters. This right here is going to be our actual. So this will be the second number in our ratio. And then this number right here, therefore, is going to be our model. So again, we're going to start with that ratio model to the actual. So I'm going to put 6 to 24 millimeters. Let me go ahead and label that 6 as well. So 6 centimeters to 24 millimeters. Okay, but then for scale, I'm trying to equate this so that you understand that the scale is essentially that little ledger on a map. So the bottom right corner, bottom left corner, wherever it is on a normal map, it says like 1 inch represents 17 kilometers or whatever the scale may be. But you're trying to get this down to 1. So I know that I want 1 centimeter, and I want to figure out what the scale model is for blank millimeters. So in order to do that, I'm just trying to figure out that scale. How did I get from this number to this number? And essentially all we're doing there is dividing this by 6. So therefore, same thing for the 24s. 24 divided by 6. Therefore, our scale here is 1 centimeter is represented by 4 millimeters, comparing this human eyeball. Okay, moving right along. Miss Landis has stuffed huskies that are 6 inches tall. An adult male husky is 2 feet tall. So I'm going to identify which one's the model, which one's the actual. Stuffed huskies, therefore this right here, this 6 inches is going to be our model. And then our 2 feet is going to be our actual. So while we start with our model, we've got 6 inches, which is represented by 2 feet. I don't know why I used 6 in both of these examples. I was trying to keep them as correct as possible, though. So then, therefore, we got 1 inch is to blank feet. And in order to find that number, again, we're going to take this number. I knew that I divided by that number 6 in order to get 1. So when I take 2 divided by 6, I end up with this final answer of 1/3 or 0.3 repeating. So we're going to go ahead and just write like that. So 1 inch is represented by 0.3 repeating feet. Okay, go ahead and pause the video. I want you to try this World War II memorial example and then push play once you have your answer. Ready to take a look at my work. 5 inches to 17 feet. I went ahead and wrote that as 1 inch is to 3.4 feet. Just so that you are aware, the biggest issue with this are the labels and basically making sure that that model is always listed first. So 1 inch to 3.4 feet. Now, we are also going to use a scale. So when we use a scale, we're going to set up a proportion to find the missing measurement using that scale. So let's go ahead and turn our notes over and we'll practice that. All right, so Mr. Orr's architect uses a scale 2 centimeters to 7 feet when they're designing his new house. If the garage is 27 feet deep, how deep do they have to draw it on the blueprint? So just as we did before, this first number listed is your model, whereas this second number is your actual. So for setting up our proportion purposes, we're just gonna all stick to the same page and put the model over the actual. Because again, when the model is listed first in our ratio, same thing for a fraction, we're gonna do model over the actual. So first I'm gonna start with my scale. I know that 2 centimeters is equivalent to 7 feet. That was model over the actual. So we're gonna stick to that same pattern, centimeters over feet, model over actual. So the other piece of information here is 27 feet deep. Therefore your 27 goes down in the denominator while X goes up in the numerator. So when you set up a proportion, you don't necessarily have to have your labels, but I've found in the past that that just makes more sense because you keep that same pattern, like centimeters over feet and then centimeters over feet. So then let's go ahead and cross multiply. We've got 7x equals 2 times 27 is going to give us 54. And then to get x by itself, we're going to go ahead and divide both sides by 7. And when I do that, I end up with a final answer of x is approximately equal to 7 we're going to go ahead and just round to the nearest tenth is fine, 7.7, and then make sure that you do, in fact, label that answer. So what that answer right there means is that on the blueprint, you will use 7.7 centimeters to represent that garage of 27 feet. Okay, next one, world's largest baseball bat is 120 feet long and 9 feet in diameter. It is modeled after a 34 long inch bat that Babe Ruth used. What is the diameter of the bat being used by Babe Ruth? Alrighty, so this problem is actually a little bit more challenging in that I don't give you the scale right out, just like I did with the Mr. Orr's question. So in this instance, we're gonna have to go a little bit deeper to identify the model over the actual. So the world's largest baseball bat is 120 feet long. Okay, so I've got 120 feet long, and then it's also 9 feet in diameter. So then the other piece of information, that right there, the world's largest bat, that's just a model, right? It's not the actual thing. Sure, it's the actual world's largest bat, but the actual bat itself is not near that large, like 120 feet long, good God. That's really big. So that is actually going to be our model, because that was another part of our definition from the beginning was scale model or scale drawing. It could be too large or too small to fit. So we know that both of those things are going to be the model. So that's why this probably is a little bit more challenging. So, but it's modeled after a 34-inch long bat. So I'm going to go ahead and underline this one in blue. The reason that I'm going to stick to it in blue is because before I said it's 140 or 120 feet long for the model, but then the actual is only 34 inches long. So I'm going to go ahead and set up our proportion of 120 feet. That's our model. And then that's 34 inches for our actual bat that Babe Ruth used. So that equals, again, we're going to stick to our same labels, so feet over inches. The other piece of pink information that I've got is 9 feet in diameter. So go ahead and put feet right there. And then you know you're going to have x in the denominator. So then again, we just go ahead and cross multiply there. Once we make sure that that setup is in fact correct, I've got 120x equals, when I take 9 times 34, I end up with 306. And then to get x by itself, I divide both sides by 120. And when I do that, I have a nice terminating decimal, which means that it stops of x equals 2.55 inches. Go ahead and box that in. If you're listening to this direction right above example 5, or near the word example 5, I want you to write the word baseball. Write the word baseball if you're listening. Before you do the U-try. So again, if you're listening right above the word example 5, I want you to write the word baseball. Okay, and then go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to try to set up the proportion for Barbie's Corvette. Go ahead and pause. All right, take a look. I got 7 inches to 59 inches. I've already given you that scale. So this must mean that this is the model and this is the actual, even though I didn't, right out say that. But then you also know, based on the first sentence, Barbie's Corvette is 21 inches long. And then the last question says, which is the real Corvette? That's another word for what is the actual size of the Corvette. So then therefore, our final answer here is X equals 177 inches. Hopefully you feel pretty good with this day 1 information. Starting day 2, we're going to get started with scale factor. Have a good day.